At Simio, we're in the business of showing you the future. Our intelligent technology gives you unprecedented insight into complex systems to identify and solve today's inefficiencies and tomorrow's challenges. The Simio solution provides a low-risk opportunity to drive transformational change. Our true digital twin models capture all the constraints, business rules, and decision logic that define the operation of your system. When powered by your data, easily evaluate unlimited scenarios and deliver optimized solutions. No matter what industry you're in, eliminate your greatest operational process and scheduling challenges with a Simio digital twin. See your future success, Simio.
Perfect. Welcome everyone to the Simio Solution Series 2023. My name is Dan Veselini and I'll get our session kicked off here. Today's session is Chart Designer Enhancements. As I mentioned, I am Dan Veselini, VP of Global Sales here at Simio, and doing most of the presenting today is going to be Chiara Bondi. She is one of our solution engineers. I will bring this slide up again towards the end because generally people have questions and they'd like to reach out to us. So if you want to jot those emails down now, go ahead. If you don't have an opportunity, you will see them again at the end of the presentation. Also, top left-hand side of the screen, if you are here live or if you're watching this recording on recording, I'd appreciate if you would scan the QR code and give us some feedback on this webcast and also any type of feedback on future webcasts we may be holding. We're always looking for input, so we included this QR code in multiple places on this presentation. So if you miss it right now, you'll see it here again in a couple seconds. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started today. Today's session is being recorded for replay purposes. If you'd like to go back and watch this session at a future time, or if you are watching this session on recording and you want to refer it on to one of your colleagues or someone else, it'll be here for you at simio.com. Generally, we have the session up within about 24 hours of the actual holding of the event. So probably sometime around this time tomorrow, it'll be live on the Simio website. For questions, if you have any questions during today's presentation, please be aware you are on mute. The best way to ask a question to us is you should see a GoToWebinar dashboard somewhere on your screen. On my screen, it's on the right-hand side. You may have moved it around, but it's a GoToWebinar dashboard. In that dashboard, there is a question box or a question drop-down. Type questions in there, and we will address those questions as they come in. A lot of times, we will try to address the questions when they actually come in during like real time. But if it makes sense to hold the question until the end, if the question is more generic in nature, I will hold the question until the end and we can ask it there. Or if you'd like to hold your questions to the end, I will leave a little time there at the end to ask questions. Today's session will probably be a little bit quicker than our normal sessions. Chiara is going to jump right into the software. She will have no PowerPoint to start off with today. So the only PowerPoint you're going to get exposed to is what I'm showing you right now. And then Chiara will be right into the software. So we're looking at probably about 30 minutes or so worth of a presentation, maybe a little bit longer, depending on the questions that come in. Next, we have one more session scheduled for 2023. On Wednesday, November the 8th, we're going to be doing Simio for DDMRP design, implementation and operation, DDMRP, a pretty hot buzzword in the world today. So we would encourage everyone to come back for the Wednesday, November 8th event. Also, the QR code, top right-hand side of the screen, you'll see it again. It will keep popping up on you. So once again, one more session here for 2023, and then we will start to plan our 2024 sessions. So that's another reason to go in and click the QR code or scan the QR code, because we are always looking for input on what you'd like to see in future sessions. All right, that's it for me. Thank you for attending today. We appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and turn the screen over to Chiara, and she can start to go. Chiara, you should be getting control of the screen as we speak.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dan. So just confirming that you can all see my screen.
Yep, screen is visible.
Okay, perfect. So before I actually start in the model, just a very brief introduction. I'm Kiara. I'm a solutions engineer here with Simio, and I work with new users of the software to help with project development and project ramp up. So I assist with new users when starting out larger scaled projects to get more comfortable and acquainted with the software so that later down the line, they can build larger models independently. So it's nice to meet you all. Nice to be able to present here for you all the different chart designer enhancements that have been updated since some of our older versions, specifically the Simio 249 version. So I'm going to just jump straight into the model, as you can see on the screen. This model is actually one that I used from our examples. So you'll be able to receive access to this model with all the different charts. But if you want to visualize the model in its original state, you can have access to it through our examples in the support ribbon. And this is inspired by the scheduling bicycle assembly. Specifically, it's the scheduling bicycle assembly with creating manufacturing orders and production orders. So just as a very brief overview of how the model runs, we're going to have in this model, we get different orders for specific bikes that we want to produce or what need to be produced and order fulfilled in this facility. And all those are generated from a data table. And as those orders are going to be coming in, we're going to take material from the inventory that's available. And once that inventory has been fully used or has reached its minimum threshold value is when we start to create production orders and manufacturing orders for materials required to fulfill the different scheduled orders that have come in, or the different sales orders, excuse me, and those different materials and production orders will be assigned specific sales orders. So depending on the bike and customer that's going to be sent to, all the different materials that are being produced and manufactured are going to be assigned to them. And so again, all of this is going to be driven from data, which is stored right here in our data tab. So all the different sales orders are going to be stored here. And then depending on the materials required, we're actually going to be producing different purchase orders for the raw material and then manufacturing orders for the different components that will be used in the actual sales orders. Now, if we look back to the facility, we'll see a lot of visuals, visual components attached to it. Some of them have been explained in our previous Simio Solution series by Adam on how to enhance the visual component of your models by using different graphics, different visuals, etc. So if you want to learn more about that, I highly suggest you go back and watch the recording of that session. I think that was very interesting. But in this particular session, what we're focusing on is more on the right-hand side of the screen right here. Specifically, the ability to add different charts to your model to visualize data in real time. Now, since the release of Simio 249, there's been a few updates on the different possibilities of what types of charts you can use. And so here, right now, I have, let me zoom in over here, 3 different charts, all sourcing data from specific expressions that I have inputted into the actual charts. So here, for example, if I then expand onto here, confirming you can see my little property editor.
Yes, Kiara, all good.
Okay, awesome. Just making sure that we're sharing all the screens. So in these different charts, you can see then that you can add or remove very specific expressions that you can type into, kind of like you would do any other expression or assignment in process logic, etc. So in this one, for example, we're going to be looking at the number of sales orders that are shipped, or here, for example, we're interested in seeing the quantity of raw material that's available at any one time. And in this particular plot, this pie chart specifically, we're going to be looking at the proportion of different bikes that are being produced. Specifically, this model will produce 4 different bikes. Eco bikes in their standard format, green and white, and then in their extended format, so motorized, again in those 2 colors. And we're going to be seeing out of all of the production orders what kind of proportion, or sales orders, excuse me, what kind of ratio or how many are being ordered of each type. And so as the model runs, we can see from these specific charts that we're going to be getting all of the different data that's specified in the expressions updated in the plots in real time. So here, for example, we can see that one of our sales orders right now is just for a standard green eco bike. And then in this other plot, we can kind of track in real time how much raw material is available at any given moment. One of the first updates that I actually want to highlight from the Simio 249 version or edition is the addition of the ability to utilize bar charts, which I will actually showcase in some later versions of the same model. But now during the model, not only are we able to see these time plots or pie charts, but we can actually also utilize bar charts to display data and different expressions, again, similarly to how all of these are being utilized. So we can see as the model runs, some quantity available has increased because we ran low on inventory, so we had to place new production orders for all the raw material that's available. And soon, starting about December 6th, we'll start seeing some orders being shipped and actually getting also some visuals of the ratios of what type of bikes we're producing. Now, this is great. A great feature of the software, because similarly here to the material in stock, and then in a moment when all of these also start populating when orders actually get shipped, we can track in real time during our model how all the different entities are flowing and other kind of data that we might be interested in keeping track in real time. So for example, when our material actually reaches its low point, how long it takes to get that inventory replenished, and to how much we're replenishing it to, or any other sort of ratio, such as the time that it takes for machinery or orders to be fulfilled at a particular station, or any other kind of statistics or expressions that you would be interested in. So now we can see as orders are getting shipped and new bikes are being produced, we can start now to see how these plots are getting populated. And now we can keep track of what the demand looks like, for example, for the different materials or the different bikes. And again, this is great for getting a sense in real time of what the demand looks like for the different bikes, so that later we can keep track of what kind of raw material is required for maybe the highly demanded products. So for example, in this case, it seems like the majority of the pie is consumed by the extended or expanded bikes. Now it's changing up and down. But it can help us get an understanding of maybe what raw material we need to have more available on deck based on demand. Now, one thing to note is, as you saw here, I'm going to stop the model just to showcase here, that one of the things that you can see here, for example, is all of the different materials have been manually placed as different expressions, specifically 9 different expressions. And if you had more raw material, trying to get these plots to, or the plot to show the quantity in stock for all of them can get really tedious. So supposing you have 15, 20 more raw material available in your facility, trying to add expressions for all of these would be pretty tedious to do. Which is where one of our next enhancements actually comes into play, which is the ability to connect your visual dash animations here to data tables, both standard input tables with some state statistics as well as output tables. And that's going to be actually the next model or the next version of the model that I want to showcase. And so what we can see here is what changes is the data source that's available per plot. So here, for example, I've placed it as expressions, where then I go into our repeat group and add all the different expressions that I would be interested in visualizing. However, if I expand on this, we can see that there's some, for example, already embedded data sources, specifically those related to resource states of a particular specific resource. So trying to see what percentage of the time, say, an operator is idle, on shift, off shift, busy, etc. But then as I keep scrolling down, we start to actually see our data tables. So now we can connect output tables and input tables with state statistics, for example, connected to our plots. And I'm going to show that now in the next model. But before I do, I want to stop and see if there's any questions on the plots that I've shown thus far and the expression editor basically for these plots.
No questions yet, Kiara. A generic question that I'll probably wait to hold until the end.
Okay, perfect. So I will now dive into the next model, and these are all the same exact model. So again, it's the same sales orders coming in, and depending on material availability, we're going to produce however much we can before placing production and manufacturing orders to get the material that we need to fulfill said orders. However, here, what's different in this model versus the other model is the data that I'm displaying. Specifically, as you can see here in this particular plot, I have added from our animation side a status table. Now, previously, to showcase a lot of different values or state statistics and state values, we would need to add status labels and individually, one by one, as an example here, add those and then specify what expression we wanted to showcase. So if we wanted to show kind of in a tabular format, similar to how we would have data tables store state statistics there, to showcase that during the run, it would be quite challenging, as we would have to create manually all the different status labels for the different entries. Whereas now, with these new enhancements and the ability to connect data tables to our different animation tools, we're able to do that same visual or implement that same visual component, but in a much more efficient manner. So now if I run the model, and before I do actually, let me showcase the data table that this is referencing. And so if I go in data, this is going to be referencing this particular table that I have created. It's a copy of our sales order table with just specific columns that I want to showcase. And so we can see that there's going to be information both static as inputs and then dynamic, so our different property or state columns, excuse me, that are going to be updated as the model runs. And so what we're doing is we're able to then see dynamically how this table gets populated. So previously, if we wanted to see how this table gets populated, we would need to run the model and then pause it and then go and see what those values are and then run the model and then pause it to go back and see what the values were. We weren't able to see during the run how these were updating. Whereas now, thanks to the enhancement of our status table here, if I run the model, and I'm actually going to place a breakpoint, place a little breakpoint right there, just to fast forward to showcase that aspect, because it's about here when our first order gets shipped. So now if I run the model again, we can see now that the production costs here are getting populated. Our ship date, this is represented in hours. So to track back to when the order was shipped, we could check down here what hour it is. So hour 58.08. So December 6th in the PM time. And if we wanted to get more exact on the actual date time, we'd be able to actually go here and see this displayed here. But here in this table, it's displaying the ship date as hours. But we can see now here, not only keep track of like the production costs associated with each order, but we can also kind of keep track of what order is starting to be produced first. So we can see that now all of these haven't started yet for all these middle ones for the eco bikes. However, all the orders that are set for Costco have started production, and we can see how their costs are starting to add up to all the different products. However, one thing that I want to note is right here, I have a bar chart, which again was one of the additions in Simio in the 249 version of Simio. But you'll see that it's static. So notice how the data source is actually the same data table as our sales orders right here. So it's actually the same data table connection. However, this table is not being dynamically updated. And that is because that particular table is not an output table. It is a data table with some state statistics. So if we wanted to display some output sort of data that's stored in data tables in a more dynamic manner, we would be able to connect these instead of connecting them to data tables with state statistics, connect them to output tables. And that's going to be the next model that I showcase there. And so here now we can see that, for example, we can connect these status tables to our tables where we're showcasing maybe order ID and other static information as well as dynamic information being updated. And if we wanted to connect pie charts, table plots, or time plots, we'd be able to connect those to output tables to showcase some real-time visuals. So if there's no questions related to any of these aspects that I've showcased here, I can dive into the next model.
So there actually are a bunch of questions rolling in, Kiara.
Okay.
And I'm trying to decipher if they are relative to what you're talking about. Let's go into these questions.
Yeah.
Are you able to filter the rows / columns shown in the status table?
So unfortunately, no. Right now, with how the table is set up, you are not able to filter on particular rows or columns. So the way that, for example, I personally did this table was I took the sales order table, the original table where all these values are also being stored, but I removed the columns that I was not interested in, specifically because I'm using the sales orders table to actually create all the different orders and have them run through the model, whereas this one is for visual purposes. So that would be right now how you can choose what columns can be shown. You can't filter by row here. Again, you would have to remove the rows from the original table.
Okay. Next one. How do you truncate the number of significant figures in the status table?
So to truncate the number is basically how that number is the exact same that is being stored in the state table. So the way to make it smaller would be in how you're originally storing it in your data table. So that could be adding a round to however many significant figures you'd like, or using the math.floor or math.ceiling expressions. So if you didn't want to utilize all of it when we're storing our time now or our production costs, excuse me, it's right here. In this output node, excuse me. So this value, for example, instead of just being the total cost, we could wrap it around a math.round So just very quickly to show that, math.round, which is our function to round to the nearest either integer, or if we are specifying how many significant figures we want, we can do that as well.
All right, perfect. Okay, that's the questions for right now.
Okay, fabulous. So now we've seen how we can visualize these tables with state values being stored during the run, but maybe we want to now implement some dynamic plots that are showcasing data of interest. And as I've mentioned here, when we attach a data table such as the sales orders with, even though these do contain some dynamic columns, those won't display here. So the way to do that would be utilizing output tables. And that is this final model where we have 3 different tables, all tied to output tables. Specifically, we're utilizing the manufacturing orders output table, which if I go into the data tab, just to quickly see what this looks like, we can see that in this table, as our sales orders are coming in, and we need to place some manufacturing orders for all of the components, depending on what kind of bike we're producing, we're storing information on the resource that we're utilizing, how long it's being seized, that particular resource, so the time that it takes to perform the particular task, the quantity that we're producing, as well as what customer that particular order is associated to. And so here in our facility now, when we attach that table, and again, let me actually showcase how this can be done. So I'm going to recreate now how this exact table is built. So if I just scroll up a little bit and zoom in a little bit, here we go. So the way in which this table connected to an output table would be as a data source can be built is by going to our animation and selecting the plot that you'd be interested in. So in our case, this is a bar chart. So you'd be creating it. I like to change then in the appearance of the properties up here, the text scale to 1 just to make it more easily visible. And then if I select the plot, you can see again here, the data source, the default is expressions. However, as I've shown before, if we scroll all the way down, we start to see all of our tables. And as I keep going, I can start seeing then all of my output tables. So in their case, one of our output tables that we're interested in is the manufacturing orders output. And so as soon as I do that and select an output table, we see that the properties here are changed. So now we can specify, based on the table that we're mapping this plot to, what our series data field would be. So kind of what each point is related to, the argument, the value that we want to represent. Are we trying to look at time and system, quantities, costs, etc., and if that's being stored. So here, for example, we can see on this particular table that I am curious to see from a customer standpoint, for every single resource that they are they're seizing to produce a particular product, on average, the time and system in that particular using that particular resource. And these 2 functions right here, specifically the summary function as well as the aggregation interval function, are 2 new updates from the Simio 250 release. So what these allow you to do is for the summary function, they allow you to summarize data in the charts based on what type of value you'd like to see. So maybe you're looking at the individual count, you want to summarize them and just see the maximum value, the minimum, or in our case, the average. And then the aggregation interval, again, an update that was performed in the 250 sprint, where we're able to aggregate the data over a specific time frame. So whether that be hour, day, month, quarter, etc. So now if I run the model, It'll take a second for the data here to actually populate, just because it takes a bit for all the different orders to show up. But we can already start to see for all of our different manufacturing orders that are coming in, as that data gets stored in our output table, we are now visualizing these plots getting updated in real time. So for example, right now we're only producing bikes for Walmart. So we can see on average, all the different components spend in the main frame just over 0.6 of an hour, about half an hour at the final. Maybe they test between half an hour and 45 minutes, etc. Oops, I've expanded way too much. And again, as more sales orders come in for different customers, we're going to be able to see how those differ per station. So maybe we can see that by a customer base, or maybe a product type base, etc., they might be spending more or less time at a particular station or at a particular location. So this is great for, say, trying to understand where potential bottlenecks might be, right? Because you're able to then see in real time, as that data gets stored, the time in system or the time idle for particular locations based on specific properties of your entities. And so you can then see like, I can now visualize in real time where everything's getting paused and how long they're spending at particular stations. So if I zoom in all the other plots, for example, here, we can start to see as more orders are coming in, their average time in system by hour out of a particular product. We can see that, or the maximum time in system of all the different orders per customer. We can see that, for example, the Ambridge bike shop, or all the orders that are specific to the Ambridge bike shop, are spending a significant amount of time longer in our system. So now we can go back and analyze, well, what is happening? Do we need to prioritize those orders, maybe based on changeover matrices or required material, before prioritizing other orders, etc. And so again, this is great because previously, in order to see the data being stored in the output tables, we would need to pause, go into the data, then see all the different information, which, as you can see, can be very extensive depending on how much you're storing. And then if we wanted to keep populating, go back, keep running, but we wouldn't be able to see, as these are getting updated, we wouldn't see those updates as the model runs on the table. We would need to, again, stop or pause. And now we can see that if I keep scrolling, new entries have been added. But I wasn't able to see those. I wouldn't be able to see these entries in the data table. But now, thanks to these data table enhancements, we're able to see those updates and changes in real time. One final thing that I want to highlight, as well as kind of an update in Simio, is kind of the use of, or the use of dashboards. And specifically, although we can't see the dashboards in our results section being updated in real time, similarly to how these are getting updated, we can now pause the model, and just like we can see as we pause how the table gets populated, we can see now as we pause how our dashboards get populated. So we no longer need to fully stop the model to see what information is being stored in the different dashboards that we've created. We can't see these changes occur in real time, similarly to how we can do that with the plots on our facility, but we no longer need to fully stop the model to see any update being done in our dashboards. And that's great because it's a great time saver, because if we had to constantly stop and rerun the model, obviously, in Simio, we're able to run models fairly quickly, but having to do that over and over of stopping, restarting, etc., that can still be tedious. So instead, having that ability to pause the model, see the dashboards, see the tables, and then as the model runs, see that information get updated real time, is a great tool for real-time analysis and also just more efficient understanding of how everything runs. So with that being said, these are some of our chart enhancements that have been done over the last few sprints. And I think that these combined with the output tables and dashboards allow the user to get a really, really detailed understanding of their facility, and depending on the type of data that they're displaying, get real-time understanding or knowledge of where potential areas of improvement are, or potential bottlenecks, areas of concern, resource changes needed, etc., can be done in their system. So with that said, thank you so much for listening, and I'm happy to answer any and all questions that have come in.
Perfect. Thanks, Kiara. All right, so I've got some questions lined up in the queue here. If you do have a question, if you weren't here at the beginning, in the GoToWebinar dashboard, you should see a drop down for questions. Type your question in there, and I will read it off as we go. A question specific, Kiara, to kind of what you just covered in regards to dashboards is, in your opinion, what are the benefits of having charts produce results in real time as opposed to having post-run results displayed in dashboards?
Right. So one of the benefits is not needing to wait for the model to run or reach a certain point to see how all the entities are flowing. Having the dashboards is great visual for being able to showcase really extensive data at the end of the run in these nice visuals to display results, display findings, output tables, etc. But I think that it can be really challenging to utilize these to get an understanding in real time of what's happening in your model. Whereas with these real-time plots, because we're able to actually see how the data gets updated, we no longer have to wait until the end to go there and find maybe a data point of concern, an area that we might need to investigate a little bit deeper. We can see that real time, how that's getting updated and what is happening in the system. And so I find that the dashboards are great for displaying sort of ending results, key indicators, etc., and utilizing these animation charts to get a more deeper understanding real time of that data that you're then using to display those KPIs. Because you might display at the end an indicator that seems a little bit off, but don't really know what happened to it. Using these, you can figure out pretty well what happened.
Got it. So in essence, I mean, what you're saying is there's a place for both of them. It's not like one's going to overtake the other. That you really find, from an opinion standpoint, there's a place for both of them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think the best way would be utilizing both of them. The real-time tables to ensure that the model is running efficiently and there are no areas of concern, bottlenecks, etc. And then the output dashboards to then ultimately see how your well-run model kind of concluded and all the final results for analyzing the overall functioning.
Got it. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Next question. I think the answer to this is going to be no, but I want to ask the question just simply because it's out there, and maybe you might have even some suggestions or a different opinion. Are you able to give these charts height and display in a 3D manner like you can floor labels?
I am actually not sure. I don't think so. But that is definitely a question that we can get back to when I reach out to support. But from my understanding of these charts, there's no way to add sort of a 3D component to it.
Got it. Okay. That's what I thought, but I wanted to ask the question because it was out there, and we could always whoever asked the question, as I will post at the end here, both Kiara and my email again. You can always reach back out to us as Kiara digs into this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next question. If I can ask it without choking, do you find that certain industries prefer specific charts? I'd imagine systems dealing with customer traffic could find a lot of value from stacked bar charts showing trends over time, etc.
Yeah, so I have not found specific associations between industries and charts, but I do find that most people, the charts that they utilize a lot are time plots. For example, to see specifically with, for example, manufacturing industries or production industries, utilizing time plots to see over a period of time the different quantities of material coming in or material being utilized, or even from a customer standpoint, for example, the flow, the number of customers coming in and out, and utilizing as well as bar charts to see that. But predominantly, a lot of times, what I've seen most users be interested in is seeing over a time period particular states or indicators. And those would be either through time plots or depending on how you've set up, for example, now with these stacked bar charts.
All right, perfect. Question just came in. Is this model available that we can share it, or is it already in Simio? How could someone get this model? Is it possible?
Yeah, so the model without the plots, because again, I took this model actually from our examples in support. So if you wanted to open the model in its original state without all the added plots, you would simply go into examples and then search for the scheduling bicycle assembly with updated POs and MOs, I believe it's what it would be. And if you wanted to get this particular model with the plots, I'm sure that we can send that over to whoever has requested it. But I will also say that in one of the near future releases, there's going to be an actual Simbit that will showcase as well all of the different connections and plot possibilities.
Perfect. Okay. Last question here that I've got on the list. If you wanted specific rows of information from a large table, would you recommend creating a separate output table and only add rows for the information you want? Seems like a viable option without the ability to filter down to a table directly. Question.
So if this is specifically in an output table, yes, you would only want to write out the tables or the rows that you'd be interested in seeing, as there's no possibility here to filter. If we're looking at similarly here, these particular tables right here, which again, you can see actually when we have our, what's it called? Status table, we don't actually have the opportunity with this table right now to map it to output tables. So if we wanted to utilize a table where we're storing information but only see specific rows, you could apply a similar technique to what I did, which was copy the exact table over to another table, but then only have the rows or columns that you're interested in.
Perfect. All right, give it one last look here for questions. Don't see any other coming in. Let me very quickly grab control of the screen back.
Absolutely.
So that, oops, no, that's not me, that's me. So that I can share our email addresses one more time and share the QR code one more time as well. So there we go. So if you can, hopefully that's showing the right screen. Yes, it is. Well, it's showing the whole PowerPoint, but yeah, so you can see on there the my email address, Kiara's email address. If you have any questions that weren't addressed today, or if you weren't in need of this model or would like to get this model, feel free to reach out to one of us via email. Otherwise, the QR code top left-hand corner, if you don't mind scanning that and give your opinion on today's webcast, as well as any other webcast we've done, and also any type of future webcast you might want to see, we'd appreciate it. Otherwise, just one last time, we will be here again Wednesday, November 8th, so just about a month from now for our last webcast of 2023. We appreciate everyone's time today. Kiara, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing everyone again in about a month.
Awesome.
Everyone have
Thank
a good
you
day.
very much.
Goodbye.